Everybody, welcome to this channel. I am Chief Agunze Ikokwu, Chairman of Agunze Chibi Ikokwu Foundation and former president of Aka Ikenga, which is the foremost Igbo think tank association. What this is all about is about the pristine Igbo culture with all its beauty and sophistry. And by the time we deal with the various topics that are germane to our people, both young and old, I believe we all would have learnt a lesson, and it's interactive. So whatever you feel, do let us know, please, and we'll adumbrate on it and make sure that at the end of the day, we'll be selling our culture as best as is possible to the whole world. Joining me on this program is my daughter, Chioma Ikokwu, alias Chioma Good Hair. She's a lawyer and a barrister at law. She's an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur for that. And she's an advocate for very many causes, from philanthropism, as in the Good Way Foundation. And she's been a mentor to very many people. And I believe she'll assist in doing justice to this session. Welcome, Chioma.
Thanks, Dad. Wow, that was really good. Wow.
Great. So there you are.
You're like a YouTube star already.
No, just fire on. We need to satisfy all these interests.
Yeah, no, but it's amazing. And so basically, there's the Igbo culture that the older generation understand, and there's the Igbo culture that the younger generation understand. And I feel like sometimes there's a slight disconnect. I feel like there's certain things that maybe we don't really know or we don't really understand that well. Of course, yes, we go to the village, every Christmas, some Easters, and we get to resonate and interact with, our people basically. But I still think that there are just some core questions that a lot of people have. And so I took to my Snapchat and asked all my, I say like my audience, what they wanted to know.
Okay.
And I threw it open, not just to Igbo people, but the entire world.
Absolutely.
What do you want to know about Igbo culture? What are the things that, that interest you and, you might want to understand further? And one of the most, I'll say like one of the biggest responses I got was about marriage. People really want to know like marriage when it comes to Igbo culture. They want to know what the practices are, what the expectations are. They want to know this thing about the usu. They want to understand, just all the different components that make up marriage in the Igbo society. So can you maybe first of all educate us on the marital requirements from the Igbo perspective?
Okay, we need to get, for everybody, please understand the makeup of the 21st Igbo person. 21st century Igbo person. Now, Igbos are very itinerant, that to be found all over the globe. it's a mistake to think that of course, their greatest concentration is in the southeast part of Nigeria, but all over Nigeria, because of their very nature. They're industrious, they're very hardworking, they're very outreaching, and so they're all over. And when they go, wherever they go, they add value. So they're in Germany, they're in USA, they're in Canada, they're in South Africa, they're in China, they're in Ghana, they're in Congo. They're all over the whole place. So when you have Igbo kids of marital age, which location are you talking about? The Igbo in South Africa, the Igbo in Egypt, the Igbo in UK, Canada, USA, the Igbo that is a first generation American or second generation American. What exactly are you addressing? And so that's why this channel is critical to, like you said, reconnect, thread the needle. So when we talk about Igbo culture, we are talking about the homogeneity of the culture, irrespective of where you find yourself.
So let's say, for instance, me, who went to school in the UK, let's just assume that I met another Igbo guy, or maybe not even an Igbo guy, actually. Let's actually say that I met somebody that was not Igbo, and I wanted to get married to this person. We both maybe don't live in Nigeria, and we want to get married. The fact that I'm Igbo, does that require me to come back to the village and do certain rites, or can I just go to court, get married to the person, and call it a day?
The greatest nightmare to the Igbo family is walking into the living room and saying, "Oh, meet Henry, my husband." You might as well call an ambulance because there has to be a CPR, or you may well pay for the morgue. Because in Igbo culture, marriage is not between Jane and John. It's between Jane's entire family and John's entire family. So when an Ada in the UK meets a Tokunbo in the UK, it's immaterial. These are two families coming together, or at least expressing an intent to come together. And so in Igbo marital culture, that is the first step. Girl meets boy, girl likes boy, and then the information is respectfully passed on to the mother of the girl or the father of the boy, whichever way. But that's the start. If at that point they ask their very internal questions on their kids, and there's a good element of satisfaction, then you go to stage 2, which in Igbo is called Ikwaka, to knock on the door, literally. Knock, who is there? The door is open and you're coming. And usually, if it's the boy wanting to marry the Igbo girl, you're coming in with maybe your dad or uncle or something of that nature in terms of relationship to introduce Iju Ase, to make a request, introduce your person and make the request. Your intent is being made known, and it's accompanied with a tokenism of some drinks, a bottle or 2 bottles of, excellent liquor. And then you politely introduce yourselves and say what's your intent.
Does the liquor have to be specific? Like, are we talking like, is it schnapps or gin, or could it be like 1942 class as well? What kind of liquor is required?
It depends on your level.
Okay, so anything good?
Yes.
Okay.
It depends on your level.
Okay.
Okay. It's just a good intent you're showing, and usually, they're talking parables like, there's the older man accompanying the young lad who will not say one word, okay, because nobody knows him at that point. So that's why he has an elder, his dad or something like that, to say, look, there's a lovely apple tree, we've seen here, we've been eyeing this tree and some lovely fruits. And we are dearly interested in plucking one of them fruits.
Or plucking a flower from your garden.
Plucking a flower from your garden and things like that. All very nice, all very jovial, but that's stage one. And then, okay, so it's well noted. And if there's any refreshment, it will be served. And they'll be asked to go. And that they will hear from the family. So now for the girl, for instance, it puts her on a high pedestal of respect to prospective in-laws. So she's not simply what you see at a nightclub and you hook up and you go to the registry. No, not at all. So once that stage is gone, then comes the question, the role of the middleman. It's question and answer time. Who is this family? Who are they? What are the compatibilities? What are the incompatibilities? These are all findings, which if at the end of the day, genotype, for instance, people think it's a joke. You really want to know your genotype. So you don't want things that create complication for unborn kids and stuff like that and cause a whole lot of misery that is unnecessary. And well, what is the background of the family? It may just be a generation of hardened criminals showcasing their Lamborghini. Igbos are not interested in that. Mm-hmm. We are not interested in your show of wealth. As a matter of fact, the Igbo saying, first question is for the young man, Kedu akologi? Kedu akologi? What do you do for a living? That's critical to the Igbo man. And they're very respectful because your skill, positive skill, is of interest to them. Not the wealth. You're not supposed to be that rich as a young boy. They know that. But they know you have a skill, you're studied, you have a skill, you have an ambition. You can maintain a home. Their daughter can be comfortable and contributory to that home, which is expected to be. That's the second stage. Finding out internally whom these prospective in-laws are. If all's well and good, the middleman, who's the go-between, will pass on the message. It's somebody that's supposed to be known to both families. So he'll go this side, pick up answers, go to the other side, deliver. It's a bit of a courier. And so he'll inform them. And then there'll be an agreement as to what day they can come for the dowry. Now, that is a slightly more expanded version in terms of attendance, and that will usually involve a greater number of the family members at this point.
Is the dowry called imego?
That is imego.
Okay. Now I know that some people find it a bit offensive because they're like, why are you asking someone to pay money to bring your daughter, to get your daughter? Are you selling your child? Does your child have a price tag? Why would you request money as opposed to just, giving your daughter away?
And so that is why in most Igbo communities, it's really more like a tokenism. Because like you rightly said, nobody is selling anybody. And anyway, you better make it a tokenism so that they know they didn't buy a chattel.
But where is it a token? Because I've seen lists where it's like, 7 cows, 15 goats, cartons of this, that, this, how many wrappers for this person, how many drinks for that person. It's a very long list of like 50 items. That doesn't seem like a token.
Yes, when it gets punitive that way, then they marry their daughter. Because this is a young man, do you understand? I know some people will say, well, look, we put her through school, and they begin to count all the way to
if she has a PhD,
PhD, then it goes to sky heavens and stuff like that. Yes, it does happen. But
is that right though?
I'm not going to speak for anybody, but what I will say is that I'll stick to what is a cultural norm, the official thing per the communities. And that is not the dowry we are talking about at this point.
Okay.
That's not the dowry. So the dowry, for instance, in Oba, in Idemli, where we come from, if it's an Oba boy marrying an Oba girl, it's 2,500 naira.
In this economy?
Yeah. If it's outside, the guy is not from Oba, marrying an Oba girl, it's 5,000 naira.
So me with my masters, my LLM, law school, all my businesses, I'm only worth 5,000 naira.
You're not worth 5,000 naira, and that's exactly the point. So please look at what you're getting. This is what it has taken. This is the input. We're not counting costs. All we're saying is we know what we've brought up and the asset you're getting. So please be gentle, be kind, be understanding, add value to this gem. That's what it is. Because really, it costs you, literally speaking, nothing. So these are tokenisms. And so that's the dowry bit. Now, it's a debt giving, and they come with a larger entourage of their family members to the girl's family, and they come with a bit more copious drinks, okay, number of drinks to entertain the guests. The family, in turn, receiving them, will prepare nice refreshments, good food, and then it's all bantering. And then the girl is called to confirm in presence of all that this guy is her choice. And once she says that, once she affirms, then people retire. Some select members of the families retire for the bride price, for the dowry. And then they go in and do their talking. And we are talking modern times.
They negotiate.
They negotiate or banter about, crack their jokes, do their stuff. And at some point, so it's at this point, really, that it's not unlikely that the suitor in question, those representing him now, his dad, uncle, uncles, and all, will bring a briefcase that may well contain 50 million naira and $10,000 to show that
he's serious.
They are very serious and they know what they're coming for. And you see it, and it's there in mint. And you just simply congratulate them for their show of wealth and their desire to pay all that much for your daughter. And you single out 2,500 naira.
From the 50 million.
5,000 naira. Yes. And you tell them to please take all these things away and make sure that your daughter and her children are comfortable.
I don't know how many people will send all that money back.
Well, that's what we do. That's what we do. And then when they do that and come out successfully, there's absolute bonhomie. People are happy for the girl, happy for the young suitor. And the next thing thereafter is you go to the final stage of the formal traditional marriage, which is Igba nkwu. and that this public outing, and that's where families, friends, everybody will now gather. Okay, and you said, must they go to the village? Well, the answer is yes. The answer is yes, but culture is dynamic, and with security in mind, the logistics of transportation, the logistics of hoteliering, accommodation, and all sorts of things put together. If it is totally inconvenient to do that, the dynamism of the Igbo culture is such that they've now relaxed for you to do it conduct that ceremony wherever you are. Okay. So it's not being done in America. You see, so that's the versatility and beauty of the Igbo culture.
So you recreate that entire scenario in your location.
That is correct. That is correct. You recreate all of that. But bear in mind that at a convenient time, you will still report back to the village.
For what?
Because you're not about to eat that rice and stew all alone to yourself because you're in America. They're waiting for you. You call them and now you're married, of course. It's okay. This is our in-law. And it's a special day for them. Just the umunna. And it's important to explain the concept of umunna.
I think a lot of people want to know because I from what I understood growing up, they were like an integral part of the community, making decisions, things like that. But I think now sometimes the way that it's portrayed is as though they're just there to request money, collect money, ask for, so almost like a manipulative sort of role.
The one thing they are not is manipulative. Umunna means simply siblings, people of the same parents, at least an original father, a progenitor. So you're looking at your first cousins, second cousins, third cousins, fourth, thereabouts will be your imene, that is the nucleus of the family. First, second, third, fourth cousins. Then you have bunches of such making up eventually an umunna. The wider circle, if you throw a pebble into a stream, you have the concentric circles forming. So you go from the epicenter, which is the nucleus, to the outer realm. So the outermost realm of that concentric circle is the village of Oba, for instance, or the Newi, or Umuchu, or Enugu. That is the outer concentric circle from that epicenter. Okay? The same thing like Mbise. You understand? These are the outer concentric circle. As you tend towards the center, now you have the umunna and the imene. That's how it is. So you need to inform people that have this sort of cultural relationship, family relationship with you. So please, when we talk of Igbo culture and how we relate, we talk of the nucleus family, we talk of imene, we talk of umunna. Then we talk of where your mother came from, that family, and sisters of your parents on either side that are married out. So for instance, therefore, where your mother comes from will regard you, her daughter, as Nwadiana. That's the language. You will regard them as Ndi Nna Ochie, my parents of old. Very respectful relationships in Igbo culture. So You just can't bring in somebody into the living room and say, oh, please meet Mr. X, whom I love very much. You're looking into his eyes and smiling, and he's good in. And you say, we've just come in from the registry. You better get an ambulance. Because the imenne, omonna, nwadiana, nochie, there's a whole lot that are out of the equation that ought to be part of the equation. And now, why will they be part of the equation? And I tell you, because this is the connect, this is the Igbo communalism. In other words, we are each other's keeper. So that watching your back, you're in London or wherever you are, there in the village, looking after your property, taking care of your church dues. When you come back, you pay them. They're not manipulative. They are representative. And for their presence there and for their interests in your goodwill, if you do come back with a present for them, they'll be very appreciative. So that's what it is. And on that D-Day, which is the Igba nkwu, now at different levels, that's where, for instance, that your long list may come up. That long list is not a long list based on greed or because they want to do you down financially. No. It is a long list because of the number of persons they have to take care of.
Okay.
Yes. So they tell you, bring, now they become very specific. Bring 10 tubers of yam, bring so many bales of adire material or abada material or what have you, or bring 7 heads of raw tobacco, and they become very specific as to quantities because the omonna will be there, the omuada, these are the women of the household, of the families. Umuapo, daughters of the family that married out, they have every administrative right back in their homes. So all these women, men, and what have you, will get a little apportionment of whatever is brought on the door of Igba nkwu. Ditto the drinks. And of course, it's very festive. It's very festive. So you have the different cultural groups, dance band, musical, performing, friends coming in. And when everywhere is settled and the bride of the day walks out with her train of friends, the beauties. These are future attractions, coming attractions. And the bachelors, able bachelors are watching and making their pick and trying and praying hard that there'll be a connection. So it's a jolly good festive occasion that benefits all at the end of the day.
So who pays for the wedding? Is it the man's side or the woman's side of the family?
Traditional wedding or
the traditional wedding?
In Igbo culture, the groom's family comes up with all the drinks and all those things listed out for him. It depends on communities, different tribes, different tastes. So that's the groom's side. The bride's side, whom that they'll be going to, provides all the food. That's it. But what if the bride side does not have the wherewithal? What happens? Police. In Igbo culture and Igbo language, Igbo adage, we say, Onye ji ego kwa nna ya, asịkwana na ọ dị ọkpara gburu. In other words, whoever is so blessed as to have the capacity, the financial capacity to carry a responsibility, please do. Don't say it's the burden of the eldest son. So if therefore a groom has the capacity to foot the bill because his lovable bride-to-be is not so well to do, their family, oh, he'll foot the bill. It doesn't matter. And oh, by the way, vice versa. Yes, we do not count costs. Okay, so it balances out. It's a thing of the mind. And that's why this whole thing is about love. It's love, it's affection, it's responsibility.
Okay, and so the part where the woman comes and looks for her husband in the crowd, which everyone gets so excited, everyone's looking forward to, and the man hides, but really we can all see him, but everyone's pretending so she can dance around and parade the whole entire place, and then she presents him, with the palm wine, he drinks, and then I believe he puts money in the cup and gives it back to her. What does that signify? Why do we do that?
Well, this is now the wider audience, that we are not part of the knocking ekwaka, that we are not there for the dowry. This is now what they're seeing as emblematic of this union between two families. And so they need to have that evidence that this is for real. So everybody's seated, it's nice music going on, bantering is going on, people are being refreshed, and then the D time arrives. And the girl comes out with her beautiful entourage, common attractions. And she goes to her father, kneels down, and her father pours that palm wine into the God and gives it to her and says, okay, so here we are. If your man, the man after your heart, is in this crowd, go seek him out. And then what you said begins. She begins to go all the way around. And if you think hearts don't palpitate, yes, it does palpitate. Because in the nuptial service, you hear it. There are 3 bands to a church wedding. Every Sunday, it's announced until the 3rd and final band. You think it ends there? Right there in church, again, it comes up. If there's anyone here who has any reason to believe that this union will not take place, please state it now or forever hold your peace. So when she's walking around, you really can't quite tell if something had happened
between her and her husband-to-be.
Yes, and some other chap she has really loved and wasn't quite too decisive, and this is crunch time, and she's walking around looking, you don't know what she's looking for.
Well, she might give it to the other guy.
Oh, absolutely, and then that's the end of the story. That's the end of the story. But why, therefore, all these stages are dutifully observed is to ensure that no such thing ever happens. And for as long as
has that ever happened? Has that ever happened?
No, not at all. Thank God.
That would be so interesting.
Yes, exactly. But on the negative side, So we thank God for our culture. And when she finds the man, she kneels down, takes the sip, gives to him, and he relishes it as it goes right down his throat. Then he gets up, takes his new bride to her father, where he then blesses her. But at that point...
So what about the money in the cup?
Some do it, some don't.
Okay.
Yeah. But the critical thing is, at that point, when that gentleman accepts the drink and drinks it down and gets up with his friend, it's a cacophony of noise, applause, general relief, happiness. Everyone is happy. Parents on either side. Okay, they go to her father, and he now blesses her.
Okay.
And it's that blessing that brings this thing to a finality traditionally, because that's the blessing of, Igbos have 4 market days. Yes, we do have 4 market days. And that's the Igbo week.
I know nkwu, eke, afo, orie.
Correct. That's it. So he says, Mwa, give birth. So he says, Mwa, ozuzu, eke, orie, afo, nkwo. That is multiple children representing our market days and more. You understand? And then generally, it's a blessing for all. Okay. And happiness in the home. Okay. Peace, no violence, and all such things as you want your child to experience in a marital home.
Okay.
Then that's it. The marriage in Igbo culture can end right there. The Igbo girl is married. The Igbo man is married. That's it. But if you do want to extend it, then comes the registry, which authenticates the nuptial, the church, the canon marriage. So you have the cultural marriage, you have the registry if you want, then you have the canon, the church marriage. And that's it. That ties it up.
So assuming a person decides that they want to be culturally married only, since that's obviously recognizable, what happens if, God forbid, they end up getting a divorce? Because obviously when you marry someone legally in the registry, you're now entitled, to a portion of their property if you do get a divorce, or their income, depending on who's, more successful. But if you're only married culturally and it gets to the point where you have to separate, first of all, how do you even get a divorce if you're only married culturally? And then what rights does a woman have to her husband's property, or vice versa, if you're only married culturally? What laws stand?
Yeah, that's why we have customary law. And it's as binding as any other law. What you're talking about is the English law. You studied in England. They went to the Nigerian law school and started. So, customary law, for instance, determines that, unfortunately, if the marriage comes to an end on a sad note, which is not a very common thing, all those processes is designed such that unwinding that process is not an easy thing. All those Umonna, Imene, and all them people, friends, will come into the picture to try to dissuade, to try to ameliorate, and to try to tell the couple in question to remember all the advices before they got married. And that really, in truth, marriage has its ups and downs. And to a large extent, there's really nothing new you wouldn't have seen. But all couples have a way of resolving their problems. Like I would say, show me an old couple that are happy, and I'll show you 2 professors of conflict management and conflict resolution. That's what makes it. So you're not really meant to be so quick on the draw. Okay? But the one thing we will not tolerate is sending back our daughter in a coffin. No, that was not the idea. Okay? Now, how do you dissolve this thing? When everything fails, when the bride price, you see that bride price of your 2,500 or 5,000 or whatever, when it is returned, then that's it.
That's the end of the marriage.
That's it. That's the end.
So maybe it was a good idea not to touch the 50 million and
because
the
when you're asked to cough it out, you'll be in a heck of a soup. So that's it. That ends it. But mark you now, if that is not done, and the wife, the bride in question, leaves the home and has a baby outside, the baby belongs to her husband.
Really?
Yes, that's Igbo culture.
Wow.
He has a right, has a claimant to it, to the baby.
What if the man naturally wouldn't want the baby because it's not his
Then
biologically?
that's his prerogative. But if he wants to push it, that's the Igbo culture. They said, well, did you return the bride price? He said, no. He said, well, that's our baby. Before the advent of the Europeans, which is why to understand the Igbo culture is to have a deep respect for the African civilization.
Mm-hmm.
The African civilization predates the Greek civilization. I'm talking of the Western civilization. So you have the African, then the Greek, then the Roman. Do you understand? Then the West and the European. Each one lasting millenniums. Okay? Thousands of years. So that is how far back you can trace the Igbo civilization. And it's in this book. Yes. So most Igbos don't know that hundreds of thousands of years ago, they were already skilled in metallurgy. And this is not gainsaying because this is archaeological findings with carbon dating to determine the age. And some of these things, the tuya coming from these kilns, are still there in the Nsukka area. Most Igbos read about Bini bronze. Do you know the bronze works of Bini? And Ife bronze, and not culture and things like that. But not until 1948 when Thurston Shaw, an anthropologist and archaeologist, went to Ibuku to go into the dig in Ibuku of an ancient king. Did they discover intricate, exquisite bronze carvings, bronze sculptures, hundreds of thousands of beads, staff of office, all sorts of things that showed a high level of technical skill and knowledge and civilization. And when they dated it, it turned out to be 7 AD.
Wow.
That far back. Do you understand? So the Europeans came into us about late 15th century, latter part of the 1460s, 70s, 80s, 90s. That's when they came. That was the contact. We had been evolving for thousands of years. Okay. And these are some of the areas yet to be properly tracked and documented. The Nubian culture, okay, from the Black Egypt down the coastline, East Africa coastline, to West Africa and down. But this is how old we are in civilization. So, my dear, we had our laws, and they are still there. And that is why there should not be a disconnect between the younger generation and the older ones. Wherever you are, please, there are the fundamentals guiding, underpinning various aspects of our culture, of which right now we are talking about matrimony, marriage ceremony in Igbo culture.
Okay.
And when the guy takes you home, by the way, 2 weeks or thereabouts, your people will now go visiting, yes, as Ogo. An in-law is Ogo. In Igbo, an in-law is Ogo. And we respect Ndi Ogo, our Ogos. And we say that Ogo bu chi oje. Ogo can be got to one another. We respect them. So, Ogo bia malube Ogo. In-law will now visit the other in-law's home. Yes, and get entertained, just at the small family level. And with that, the cultural aspect of Igbo marriage would have been happily concluded. The next thing, like Flavor, the musician, sang in one of his lyrics. He says, in 9 months' time. That's a different ball game.
Okay, I do have a question about what happens after 9 months, but just before I ask that, I kind of want to, know about this Osu thing, which I suppose means outcast. Is it something that is still practiced, or is it something that, has been done away with because of how maybe unfair, I would say, it is?
Yes. Osu, by the way, simply means slaves dedicated to the deities, okay, to serve the deities. And these were in ancient times, and all that came about in various ways. One, as an armistice between two warring communities. They can say, hey, look, we dedicate this person or group of persons, okay, let's not fight. And they will be handed over to the deities. You had chief priestesses, chief priests, and things like that. They go and serve the deities in their shrine. The other way might be as a recompense for a raid that results, say, like in murder. So Igbos don't kill, we are not bloodletting. You just give us someone back for the murdered citizen, and they dedicate it to worshipping, taking care of the shrines, which in turn oversees the spiritual aspect of the community. So that's another way. The other way is quite voluntarily, some people, to avoid, in the slave era, when these headhunters come, some people run to the shrines and take shelter and dedicate themselves there, and nobody dares touch them. So that's a voluntary aspect of it all. But I think the bit that is very worrisome, devolving from all of that horror, has to do with being the child of such a person, and also, or marrying one. I think becomes the modern aspect that creates a lot of trepidation in people. Those were the days. So when you go through history, all history, both the Western civilizations. I've mentioned Africa, Greek, Roman, Europe, they all had all of that. You go to the eastern part, Asia, India, China, they all had all of that. Slaves. Do you understand? Now, the point is, how have you dealt with your own? And I'd like to say that in 1956, when Zik, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, was the premier of Eastern region, that the Eastern House of Assembly, the Legislative House in Enugu, passed a bill abolishing Osu system. That's back in 1956, making it a criminal and civil offense to call anyone that or to practice that abominable act. Now, that's the legislative bit. But because you're talking of deities and priests and shrine servants, well, those that don't quite understand this official part still stuck to the native aspect of their perception of this. Most communities already had banned it, but for those that still had their shreds of doubt, in December, on the 28th of December 2018, in Nri. Nri is the bastion of Igbo civilization and culture. The whole concept of Osu was banned spiritually for good. So police, feel free. There is nothing like Osu system in Igbo culture anymore. And that's the final note on this very disturbing subject matter.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad to hear that, because I know, like, you know, I've heard situations where a person, you know, met a guy in England or in America and wanted to get married, and, you know, the moment they did the Ijuase,
yes, that's that bit of Ijuase.
They found out that the person's history, so maybe their great-great-grandfather or their family name is Osu, and you're not allowed to marry that person, you know, which is so devastating for both parties. The boy probably not even knowing that he's Osu, and the girl who's madly in love and can't marry this person. So hearing that it's been abolished is really, really good, and, you know, it just means that, you know, people can find love anywhere. So that's good to know.
Yeah. Yes. These things, by the way, most towns simply took the decision not to point out any Osu in their community. So in the Ijuase, there was the general acceptance that all citizens the same. So if you say, please tell me about family X, you know, they say, what about them? You say, they say nothing of the sort in this place, please. Full stop. And that's how it started dying off. And you saw principal major families marrying each other and things like that and producing their lovely kids. And for some reason sake, them people tend to be their girls can be very beautiful. For some reason sake. But anyway, it's gone. Like I said, please, 1956 is in the Hansard of the Eastern House of Assembly, and 2018, 28th of December, at Nri, it was dealt with at the spiritual level.
Just before we round up, I think I've got 3 more questions, but we'll breeze right through them.
Okay.
So, is it true that women were allowed to keep their last names at a certain point in time, and then only like, not very long ago, historically, did they now have to change their last names to their husbands' names? Is that true in Igbo culture?
I think the concept of taking on your husband's name really it's not a cultural thing as much as a thing of pride. You wouldn't ordinarily lend yourself to a name that will not make you hold your head high up. And so it came to be therefore that ladies started taking on their husband's surname.
Okay.
But within with femininity, feminine agenda, affirmation, gender affirmation, and stuff like that, some women are also beginning to work up such a unique personality for which their name is roundly attached to their calling, that when they get married, they have it as an appendage to their name. So they retain their first name, their surname, and the husband's name.
Or some people just don't even
change their name at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess the question is, if a woman decided to keep her last name now, there's no cultural offense, right?
No, not at all. It's purely between herself and her man.
Okay.
But the point is, what are you going to sign at the marriage registry?
Can't she sign her name and her last name, and then he signs his name and his last name, and they just both sign?
That's up to them.
Okay.
That's up to them.
Okay. Well,
That's up to them.
I guess that answers
But I think they just say Mr. and Mrs. introducing the newest couple in town, Mr. and Mrs. blah, blah, blah. And everybody is happy. Now, when they go out from there, if she decides to stick to her name, that's what the public will know.
Okay.
If she decides to compound the names, that's what the public will know.
Okay.
If she decides to take on only her husband's name as her new image, that's what the public will know.
Okay.
But
so far, there's no cultural restriction or anything like that. That's the important thing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then why is it also that sometimes, certain Igbo states are very funny or very particular about people from that state marrying other people from that state? So for instance, you'll find that they'll say, oh, Anambra people, don't even bother because they only marry other Anambra people. Or, if you're from Abia states, just leave them because they only marry themselves. If you're from Imo, they're not going to be interested in you. Like, they don't like to intermarry within the states. Is that a thing? Is it true? And, why do they do that?
Oh, there was a time, all these things used to be in vogue, not only with Igbos, all over the whole world. People tried to ornithological specimen of equal identity perambulate in the nearest proximity. Birds of equal feathers
flock
together. So that was what used to determine all of that. Now take the case of Nigeria. Now came the Youth Service Corps. And suddenly, graduates were flung to any other place to serve for 1 year other than their home state. And they started seeing other cultures and people and started intermingling and started reassessing and reappraising and started actually falling in love. And so people started getting Akeredolu that just died, unfortunately, the former governor of Ondo State. His wife, it was a youth corps meet in Enugu, right? She's from Umbise in Imo State. Okay, and I can keep naming them. I don't want to now because we don't have time. But the last almost 15 top family weddings I've attended in Lagos, Nigeria, between top Igbo girls, families, with Yorubas, families. And so it was a bit of a shame in the last election seeing them, people politically drum this up as a negative when we're all trying to encourage positivity. So we are fighting for an all-inclusiveness in terms of culture And in this book, you will see that here we go again, trying to drum up the positive relationship and gains of cultural admixture. Okay? And the critical thing is that the couple in question should be very happy and have very valuable kids that would be of benefit to society.
Okay, so basically, in other words, I can marry whoever I want.
You can't marry whoever you want. You can't marry whoever you want. You have to, again, go through the formal channels of acquiescence. Okay? That's very critical. And when all of them channels have been cleared, you get the green light.
Okay.
Please don't run a red. Just wait for the green light, and then you can coast on happily.
Okay. All right. Noted. At least now I know he could be any tribe.
But still get the clearance. Still get the clearance.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay. All right, my last and final question on like the whole marriage topic, omugwo.
Okay.
So first of all, can you just quickly explain what omugwo is, and is it a necessity? Is it necessary for the girl's mother to come into their home when she gives birth, or could it be her husband's mother or anyone? Is this like a cultural expectation that omugwo must happen, or it's just something that happens anyway?
I think it's a beautiful thing. Omugwo has everything to do with a wife giving birth and her mom coming to assist. Okay, and traditionally she stays 1 month. Okay, now what is the essence of all of that? It's not out of place to say that the process of childbirth, even the 9 months preceding the childbirth, can be very traumatic on women. The childbirth itself can turn out unexpectedly horrendous. Some women die, some survive, but they have post-traumatic depression. When all of that is not there, she is so fatigued because baby wakes up so many times in the night, must be breastfed and stuff like that. And so, to all intent and purpose, the beauty of our culture is that, like I said, marriage is a collectivism. So when she gives birth, it is still a collectivism. So the mother of the girl goes to assist in that critical 1 month after giving birth. Beautiful, brand new mother and allowed to lift a finger. And anyway, she's also learning the ropes of nappy changing, getting used to night cries and stuff like that. So she gets the best of treatment. Literally anything she wants, she'll get. Okay, so she refreshes and looks good. And it lasts 1 month. And thereafter, when the mother-in-law to the young man, that's the mother of the of the wife, the new mother, is ready to go, she goes home with presents. Okay, from a very grateful son-in-law. Okay, she goes home with presents, and people back home are very expectant of her comeback because she's going to tell the story of the bambino and how everybody is doing, and then she's going to give them all these little presents
from the husband, basically.
From the husband.
Her son-in-law.
Okay, so it's supposed to be a very happy period. Now I also know that at times there can be conflict. Okay, there can be conflict from young daughters that think that maybe the way she's handling baby is a little bit archaic, and stuff like that. But no, listen, she's your mom. She raised you. She probably raised so many other of your siblings. Okay, it may not be precisely how you see it in modern maternity homes, or you see it on social media, on all these apps telling you about how to manage new baby. No, she's a very experienced person. So let her be. let there be no friction at all. It's 1 month of goodwill. She's going to stay and she's going to bless the home and she will go home happy.
Nice.
That's omugwo culture.
Okay.
1 month.
Okay. Well, I can't wait. Okay. This has been really, really good. This has been so interesting. I'm so glad that you had me on the show today and I was able to get clarification, you know, for other people and myself as well, because there's a lot that I've learned today, stuff that I didn't even know. I mean, like, I knew most of it, but maybe not in such minute detail, you know, so I think this was actually really important even for me, myself. And yeah, I'm excited. Now I have so many more questions on so many other topics.
Oh, feel free.
So I definitely have to come back on your podcast. But guys, if you want any more information, you can buy the book. It's called Learning About Ndi Igbo.
It's on ebook. In other words, you can download it on your system. Amazon paperback, Amazon ebook, and Book Baby Unlimited. And then the publisher's Book Baby.
Follow the Instagram page, Asif, also on the screen, and please subscribe to the Asif channel in case you want to learn more. You know, share this with your friends, your family, you know, even your parents in case they like object to anything and want to give you their own version. Like this dowry thing, for instance. I know my dad's saying 2,500 naira. Some people are going to be like, hell no, we want 2 million, 20 million, you know. So share this with your friends, your family, and anyone who cares about the Igbo culture. And I guess we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.